The government-issued Valari integration manual landed in Aiden Cross's recycling chute 3 seconds after he got it. 6 warning letters, 2 last notices, and 1 real-life visit from a cold-eyed compliance officer later, Aiden found himself reluctantly scanning his apartment's entry system at 7:32 a.m. on a Monday morning. The kind of Monday where his hangover made the bright hallway lights feel like tiny drills in his eyes. Identification confirmed. Cross. Aiden J. Valari. Cultural exchange specialist arriving at 800 hours. Prepare for mandatory integration, the system chirped in its usual lifeless voice. Yeah, Aiden muttered, dragging himself back inside. Prepare for mandatory headache, more like. His coffee machine sputtered to life as he leaned, on the counter glaring at the ugly government poster slapped onto his wall. A purple-skinned alien woman was smiling way too wide, serving tea to a beaming human family who looked like they'd been hypnotized. Nobody in the picture looked real. Definitely not the artist, who probably drew it under threat of losing their just outside his dusty window. Neo Denver rose in towers of steel and screen. Billboards everywhere read "Unity through proximity," showing handsome human guys arm in arm with Valari women dressed in uniforms that looked suspiciously like underwear. Cultural exchange specialist, my ass, Aiden muttered, pouring his coffee into a chipped mug that read, "I survived the Valari War and all I got was this crappy mug." A joke gift from his friend Nate, but the humor had died the day Earth signed the Treaty of New Harmony. His communication band buzzed, and Nate's face appeared mid-grin, looking way too cheerful for the hour. "Today's the day, man. You finally get your purple roommate," Nate said. Aiden grimaced. "Too early for jokes. Come on, this is huge." Aiden Cross, the same guy who swore he'd rather jump off a bridge than live with a Valari freak, now sharing his couch with one. Beautiful irony. "It's not a dating service, Nate. It's government babysitting with glowing skin and a weird accent." Nate wiggled his eyebrows. "Tell that to Johnson. He's practically engaged to his Valari, and Peterson hasn't shown up to work in 3 days. I think he's been deeply exchanging culture, if you catch my drift." "That's disgusting," Aiden said, sipping his coffee. "And disturbing. Did everyone forget we were at war with these things like 5 minutes ago? 3 years, 2 months, and 11 days, but who's counting?" Nate shrugged. "Just be careful. I've heard things. Strange things. Can't confirm anything, but..." Aiden's apartment chimed, 3 sharp notes that stopped him mid-sip. "Looks like your date's early." Nate grinned. "Call me after if you're still, functioning." Before Aiden could reply, the call ended. The chime rang again. "Crap," Aiden muttered, glancing down at his rumpled t-shirt and sweatpants. He meant to change into something cleaner before meeting his intergalactic guest, but clearly, life had other plans. He shuffled to the door, expecting some stiff alien with a clipboard and a speech about cooperation. The door slid open. He forgot how to breathe. Standing there was 6 feet of glowing, smooth-skinned perfection. Purple from head to toe, the Valari woman wore a skin-tight silver suit that looked more like a fashion statement than a uniform. Her long silver hair fell like molten metal down her back. Her glowing pink eyes with vertical pupils stared straight through him. "Greetings, human-designated Aiden Cross," she said in a voice that sounded like warm honey. "I am Rinna, your assigned cultural exchange partner. I have arrived to begin integration and mutual understanding between our species." She held out her long, slender purple hand. Aiden blinked at it. Then her face. Then the impossible shape of her waist and the curve of her hips. He looked back at her hand, panicking. "Inside." "You're supposed to shake it," she prompted, blinking slowly. "Have I misunderstood human greetings?" "No, sorry. I'm Aiden," he said, reaching out awkwardly and shaking her hand. It was warm, weirdly human. He'd expected her to feel like a fish. "I will now establish residence and begin." "Immersive integration," Rinna said, stepping past him into the apartment without waiting for permission. A silver case hovered beside her, following like a pet drone. "Wait, you're staying now?" "Like, right now?" Aiden said, shutting the door. "There was a manual," she replied. "Page 1. Immediate residence required upon arrival. Did you not read it? It's in my recycling bin, he muttered. Then allow me to summarize, she said, eyes scanning the room. I will live with you, observe you, teach you about Valari culture, and learn about humans. Your government calls it diplomacy. My people call it observation through closeness. Aiden choked on his coffee. I'm sorry, what? She tilted her head. That was a joke. I've been practicing humor. Aiden stared. Right. Okay. Sure. Rinna floated into the center of his living room. Let's begin. Aiden stood, there for a long second, still trying to figure out what the hell just happened. A glowing purple alien woman had just walked into his apartment like she owned the place, and now she was eyeing everything. His coffee table, his couch, even the smudged mirror on the wall, like she was scanning it for signs of infection. That case thing, he said, pointing at the silver floating pod beside her. What is that? My rest chamber, Rinna replied, tapping a button on her wrist. The case made a soft sound, then started to unfold like some futuristic transformer. Metallic limbs shifted, parts clicked into place, and within seconds it became a sleek oval-shaped pod that sat right in the middle of his living room. Right there? Seriously? Aiden said, eyebrows raised. This is my couch zone. Proximity is essential for proper integration, she said, glancing up from her device. Your government agreed. I've got a spare room, Aiden offered, pointing toward the door at the end of the hall. It's got a bed, a door, privacy, Earth stuff. Separate sleeping arrangements violate Directive 17 of the treaty, she said, firmly. The maximum allowed distance between human and Valari during rest cycles is 12 meters. That's insane, Aiden muttered. What about personal space? An Earth concept we find curious, she replied, tapping her chin. Your species shows a strange attachment to isolation, even in social settings. It is inefficient. Yeah, well, we like our inefficiencies, he grumbled. At least move it over by the wall instead of parking it dead center like it's some modern art installation. Rinna paused, then gave a small nod. Acceptable. Compromise. Aiden took that minor victory and ran with it. He slumped into the kitchen and refilled his mug, only to return and find Rinna rearranging his furniture. She'd shifted the sofa to face the window, moved his bookshelves 3 feet to the left, and now she was lifting his entertainment unit, by herself, like it weighed nothing. What are you doing? He asked, watching in disbelief. Adjusting. Your spatial energy flow. Your arrangement creates vibrational disharmony. My furniture arrangement was perfectly fine. It violated 7 principles of Valari spatial harmony. This isn't a Valari apartment. Rinna stopped mid-step, setting down his gaming console with gentle precision. Her glowing eyes met his. The treaty says cultural exchange must be mutual. You will learn our ways. We will learn yours. Aiden ran a hand through his messy hair. Right. Cultural exchange. Sure. So what human customs are you embracing today? I have already adopted your inefficient walking style despite my species' ability to levitate. You can levitate? Yes, she said casually. We can manipulate gravity fields, but it unsettles humans. We avoid it to prevent discomfort and envy. How considerate, he muttered. Aiden checked the time and groaned. I have to get ready for work. Can we, pause? This alien home makeover until I'm back? You intend to leave? She asked, looking genuinely surprised. Yeah, that's what people do. We work, we pay rent, we complain. Rinna blinked. Your acclimatization schedule allots 3 full days of cohabitation. Your employer has already been notified. You have been granted mandatory leave. Excuse me? Aiden said, nearly spilling his coffee. Nobody told me that. It was in the manual, she said. The one I turned into a cube and threw in the bin? Correct. Aiden took a long breath. So I'm stuck here, for 3 days, with you, with new cultural experiences, she corrected, her glowing smile returning. Something in her tone made his skin crawl. Not because it was creepy, but because it sounded too calm, like she knew something he didn't. I've prepared several activities to help familiarize you with Valari practices, she added. Activities? Yes. First, we begin with a cleansing ritual. She motioned toward the bathroom. Aiden blinked. You're not saying what I think you're saying. Your pheromone output indicates substandard hygiene. A proper cleansing will help. I'll try. Shower alone, thanks. Valari cleansing is traditionally communal. Nope, he said quickly, already backing up toward the bathroom. That's definitely where I draw the line. Some customs just don't get exchanged. Rinna tilted her head, slightly disappointed. As you wish. I will continue harmonizing your dwelling. 15 minutes later, Aiden emerged from the bathroom, hair damp and towel around his waist, feeling slightly more like a functioning human being. He made his way to the bedroom but stopped short when he saw her standing in the hallway, examining something in her hands. Hey, what are you? He started, then saw it. My underwear? This fabric is inefficient for ventilation, she noted, stretching the waistband. Valari undergarments are. He snatched it out of her hands. Rule number 1 of human customs, don't touch other people's underwear. Noted, she said without flinching. Then her glowing eyes drifted down to his towel. Your current covering seems unstable. Aiden tightened it. I'm going to get dressed. Alone. She stepped aside, watching with mild curiosity as he retreated. Your heart rate has increased, she observed. Are you stressed? I wonder why, he muttered, slamming his bedroom door. By the time Aiden got dressed and came back, the apartment looked like it had been redecorated by a minimalist alien interior designer. His books were no longer sorted by genre or author, but by something Rinna called emotional resonance. His couch was now at a slant that supposedly aligned with the optimal angle for energetic harmony, and his kitchen looked cleaner but also terrifyingly organized. Rinna stood in the middle of it all, holding a pair of his sneakers with a critical look on her face. These shoes are structurally unsound, she declared. The soles are degraded and the left one is missing internal support. They're comfortable, Aiden said flatly, taking them from her. Human comfort matters. Human feet deserve better, she replied calmly. Aiden sighed. He had no idea how much more of this exchange he could take. Just then, his communication bracelet buzzed again. 3 missed messages from Nate, all asking the same thing in different ways. Still alive? You're focusing on external communication again, Rinna noted, appearing beside him. She was way too good at sneaking up. I'm checking messages, he said. Is that a Valari violation too? Social bonds are important, though many integration subjects report reduced interest in former social groups during bonding. Integration. Subjects? Aiden repeated, narrowing his eyes. You make it sound like we're part of a study. All new cultural paradigms require observation, she said, with that same calm, unnerving tone. Your responses are valuable. To who? He asked. She tilted her head. To mutual understanding between our species. Something in her expression made it hard to tell if that was truth or a very polished lie. I need to make a call, he said, heading toward the bathroom. Private communication is discouraged under protocol. I need to use the toilet, he interrupted, shutting the door behind him. Once inside, Aiden activated his comms again. Nate's face appeared, this time looking concerned instead of smug. There you are. I was about to report you missing. I wish I was missing, Aiden whispered. She went through my underwear. She rearranged my books. She made me drink. Something that changed colors. I think she's trying to rewire my brain through pillows. Nate raised an eyebrow. You drank the stuff, dude. I didn't know. It smelled like cinnamon and looked like Gatorade mated with a lava lamp. Yup. Sounds Valari. Aiden lowered his voice. This whole thing feels off. Like they're not just here for culture. They're here for something bigger. Something controlling. You're not wrong, Nate said, more serious now. That's what I tried to tell you before. At work, people are changing fast, like Johnson. That guy used to hate aliens. Now he says stuff like, Valari wisdom changed my life. It's creepy. And Marcus? Aiden asked. Gone. Left his apartment 3 days ago, no contact. Last I heard, his Valari moved her pod into his bedroom. Aiden winced. You think she's doing something to him? Nate looked grim. I don't know, but be careful. Don't trust that manual. Don't trust their activities. And for the love of all that's human, keep your brain your own. A knock on the bathroom door made Aiden jump. Human Aiden, came Rinna's voice. You've been in there for 11.7 minutes. Do you require assistance? No, he shouted. Just digestion. Very intense, don't want to share the details. He ended the call, splashed water on his face, and stared at himself in the mirror. This is insane, he whispered. When he came out, Rinna was standing very close to the door, far too close for comfort. You were communicating, she said, not accusing, just observing. I was using the toilet, he replied calmly. Your voice patterns suggest deception, she replied. Well, so does your entire government program, so I guess we're even. She blinked slowly. Very well. Shall we proceed with the next integration activity? Does it involve underwear, invasive questions, or more glowing beverages? No, she said. Today we will prepare food. Oh, cooking. Great. She floated toward the kitchen, and Aiden watched in alarm as she unpacked more strange vials, containers, and something that looked like electric moss. Within minutes, his kitchen looked like a science lab. She mixed liquids that shimmered, powders that hissed, and even one thing that smoked blue when stirred. Is this safe? Aiden asked, backing up. Valari food provides enhanced nutrition, increased neural connectivity, and improved emotional balance. It looks like alien soup. It is. Aiden groaned. Try it, Rinna said, offering him a cup of bright purple liquid. He took a sip. And to his surprise, it was warm, spicy, and weirdly sweet, like chai tea mixed with blueberry. Huh. Pleasant, yes? She said. I've had worse, he admitted. She took the cup back and drank from the same spot. The gesture felt oddly personal. They spent the rest of the morning doing what she called integration exercises. These included meditation poses that twisted Aiden's joints into pretzel shapes, playing a Valari instrument that changed sound based on his mood, it mostly screeched, and watching a documentary on her home planet's political history, a 2-hour visual monologue narrated by a floating jellyfish. By mid-afternoon, Aiden was mentally fried. He collapsed on the couch, now rotated at a spiritually optimum angle, and checked his comms again. 3 more messages from Nate. You're drifting, Rinna noted, sitting beside him. She didn't sit like a human. She just melted into the couch. Her leg brushed against his. She was warm. Almost too warm. Just checking messages, Aiden muttered. Social attachment fading is normal, she said softly. The connection will strengthen here instead. He looked at her. You mean me and you? She didn't answer, just watched him with glowing pink eyes that flickered like flames. And that's when he realized this was no ordinary exchange. Something deeper was starting, something way beyond his control. Aiden didn't sleep well that night. He tossed and turned, the air feeling too warm, too thick, like it carried something he couldn't explain. There was a faint scent lingering in the apartment. Sweet and almost floral, but not like any earth plant. It made him feel dizzy, restless, and every time he closed his eyes, he dreamed of purple skin and glowing eyes. When he finally got up around 3 a.m., his shirt clung to his back, drenched in sweat. The room was dark except for a soft pink glow seeping from beneath his bedroom door. Not the usual light strips in the hallway. This glow pulsed, slow and alive, like it was breathing. Aiden sat up, heart pounding. His mind whispered all the worst possibilities. He crept to the door, opened it just a crack, and froze. The living room had transformed again. Rinna's sleep pod was open, casting the strange, pulsing light across the entire space. The air was heavy with that same sweet scent, stronger now, almost intoxicating. And there, standing in the center of it all, was Rinna, floating. Her feet weren't touching the floor. Her long metallic hair floated around her like she was underwater. Her skin shimmered, glowing brighter than before, glowing with patterns that moved and shifted across her body. She wasn't wearing the tight uniform anymore. Now her form was wrapped in something that looked like liquid light, hugging every curve. She turned and her glowing pink eyes met his. "Aiden," she said, her voice deeper now, echoing strangely in the room. "My cycle has begun." He stumbled back, gripping the doorframe. "Your what?" "My mating cycle," she said calmly, like she was reading off a weather forecast. "It occurs every 7th lunar rotation of my home planet. I had calculated. It would begin after my Earth assignment concluded. I was incorrect." She moved closer, gliding more than walking, and Aiden backed up. Whoa, no, this isn't in the manual." "It is," she said, pausing at the edge of his room. Appendix C, Section 47, Biological Imperatives and Integration Responsibilities. He stared at her. "You've got to be kidding me. This whole thing and this cultural exchange, and it's just code for alien matchmaking?" "Not exactly," she said. "Not all Valari experience the cycle during assignments, but compatibility triggers it. Your pheromone signature is unusually responsive to mine. I did not anticipate this," he rubbed his face. "So what now? I'm legally required to, what, help you through it, sleep with you?" Rinna didn't answer right away. "Cycle completion requires intimacy." "Yes." No, he said, backing into his room. "This is insane. You can't just show up glowing in the dark and say, 'Hey, I'm in heat, time to save the galaxy.'" "I informed compliance already," she said. "They are aware of my condition." As if summoned by the word, his communication screen lit up. Officer Grant's stern face appeared, looking annoyingly fresh at 3:30 a.m. "Citizen Cross," she said briskly. "We've received biological status updates from Specialist Rinna. Congratulations, this is a significant step in your integration journey." "Congratulations. She's glowing like a radiation hazard and talking about mating seasons." "This is a natural phase for Valari," Grant said. "It is a profound biological process. Being selected as a compatible partner is an honor." "I didn't ask to be selected." "The treaty mandates cooperation with all cultural exchange phases," she said, her voice now colder. "Failure to comply could be interpreted as a violation of diplomatic terms. Do you understand?" Aiden stared at the screen. "Are you saying I'm legally obligated to have sex with my alien roommate?" "I'm saying your cooperation ensures harmony between our species. Do your part, Citizen Cross." The screen blinked off. Aiden turned slowly. Rinna hadn't moved, but she was watching. Quiet, glowing, waiting. "You knew this might happen," he said, voice low. "Didn't you?" "I did not expect it," she said softly. "But I suspected. Your scent." It triggered a physiological response. "My scent?" he asked, mortified. "In simplified terms, yes. You smell very compatible," he groaned, running a hand through his hair. "This is the weirdest nightmare I've ever had." "There is another option," she said, voice steady, despite the glow pulsing faster now. "Partial bonding, enough to satisfy the cycle without full neural integration. But it requires absolute trust." Aiden looked at her. She wasn't just some cold alien anymore. She looked almost vulnerable, in pain. And for all her calm, her glow was flickering like a candle in wind. "What happens if we don't complete the cycle?" he asked quietly. "My body will begin neural degradation," she said. "Pain, disorientation, eventual shutdown of cognitive function, and death." The silence stretched between them. "So if I say no," he said slowly, "you die." "Yes." He stared at her, at the alien who drank from his coffee mug, who rearranged his couch, who'd floated into his life like a walking headache and now stood before him, glowing like a star about to go out. And somehow, against all logic, he said, "Let me think." Aiden didn't sleep again. He tried, lying flat on his bed, staring, up at the ceiling, while the scent of whatever chemical Rinna was releasing slowly filled the entire apartment. It wasn't unpleasant. That was the worst part. It made his heart race and his thoughts twist. He kept picturing her standing in the light, her silver hair floating around her, her glowing eyes locked onto his like she could see things he hadn't even admitted to himself. By morning, his mind was scattered, his body exhausted, and his emotional state somewhere between panic and something he didn't want to name. At exactly 9 a.m., the apartment door slid open on its own. Aiden jumped up, half expecting a team of compliance officers to drag him away. But instead, two figures stepped inside, a gray-suited human diplomat and a Valari male draped in ceremonial robes. The room seemed to dim as they entered, their presence heavy like a storm cloud. "Citizen Cross," said the human man with practiced formality. "I'm Undersecretary Hale, Bureau of Interspecies Affairs. This is Ambassador Vare from the Valari High Council." Vare bowed his glowing head. "We are here to offer clarity regarding your situation." Aiden's eyes flicked toward Rinna, who stood nearby, dimmer than before. She looked weaker, her breathing shallow. She didn't speak. "You mean the situation where my government assigned me a glowing alien woman who's going through a mating season in my living room?" "Yes," Hale said, ignoring the sarcasm. "This is a sacred process in Valari culture. The biological cycle is deeply tied to their species' emotional and neurological structure." "So I've been told," Aiden muttered. "Your reaction is understandable," Vare said in a calm, melodic voice. "However, rejection at this stage may result in serious harm to Specialist Rinna." "Why me?" Aiden asked. "Why was I matched to her?" "Compatibility algorithms," Hale answered. "Thousands of genetic, psychological, and emotional variables. You were deemed optimal," Aiden scoffed. "Optimal for what? Mating or mind control?" Vare's eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. Neural synchronization is a gift. It enhances connection, increases empathy, extends life. It also rewires brains, from what I've heard," Aiden snapped. "Turns humans into extensions of your will. Only those who embrace it completely," Hale replied smoothly. "Many stop at partial bonding, emotional connection without total integration. Like a strong relationship, but with better communication." "This is insane," Aiden said. "You're dressing this up like romance, but it's a program, a system, and I never signed up for it." "You did when you accepted residence after the treaty," Hale said. "All participants are bound to the exchange agreements, including phase obligations. So what, I either bond or get punished?" Vare stepped forward. "No, you are free to decline. But doing so will result in Specialist Rinna's death and Earth's failure to uphold a key treaty clause, which may jeopardize further relations and peace." The word hung heavy in the air. Peace. That's what all this was supposed to be about. The posters, the slogans, the smiling propaganda. Unity through proximity. But now, standing in the room with a dying alien and two officials subtly threatening the fate of the world, it all felt fake, fragile. Aiden looked at Rinna again. Her eyes were dim, her glow fading fast. Even now she didn't plead. She didn't speak. She simply waited. That scared him more than anything else. "I need time," Aiden said quietly. "You have until the end of the day," Hale said. "Cycle. Phase 3 will begin by sunset. At that point, her condition becomes irreversible." They left without another word. The door sealed shut behind them. Rinna slowly sat down, her limbs trembling slightly. "You didn't speak," Aiden said. "They weren't here for me," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know what to do," he admitted, sitting across from her. "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," she said. "Neither did I." That hit harder than he expected. "I thought you all volunteered." She shook her head weakly. "Some did. Most were assigned. Our biology is seen as strategic. The ones with high compatibility were placed first." "So you were a pawn," he said. "Just like me." "Yes." They sat in silence for a while. the hum of the pod and the soft light her body still emitted, the only signs of life. Aiden felt something shifting inside him. Not brainwashing, not mind control, but something real. Human. Empathy. Rinna wasn't just some alien here to mess with his life. She was suffering. She was scared. And she had no more say in any of this than he did. What happens if I agree to partial bonding? He asked finally. Her glowing eyes met his, hopeful and hesitant. We connect, just enough. You'll feel me, I'll feel you. It will stabilize my condition. You'll remain yourself. And if I don't, I die. She said simply. The weight of the moment crashed over him. Okay, he said quietly. We'll try it. But I want something first. Anything, she said. The truth, he said. The whole truth. What's really going on with this program? What's the end game? Rinna looked away for a moment, then back at him. There's a resistance, she whispered. Valari who don't believe in forced bonding. We call ourselves the Unbound. I'm one of them. Aiden's heart skipped a beat. You're with the resistance? Yes, she said. And I believe you're the kind of human who can help us stop this, before the rest of your planet becomes permanently bound. The sun was beginning to dip below the skyline, throwing long shadows across Neo-Denver. Inside the apartment, the air felt charged, not just from Rinna's presence, but from everything Aiden now knew. The treaty, the cycle, the bonding. It was all part of something bigger. Something darker. I need to know exactly what happens during this partial bonding, he said, pacing. Rinna sat cross-legged on the floor, her skin pulsing gently with light. She looked fragile, like a flame on the verge of being blown out. Her voice was softer than usual, but steady. Our minds connect. Not permanently. You will feel what I feel emotionally. I'll feel you. But you'll stay you, Aiden. No thoughts will be stolen. No memories taken. And that's enough to stop you from dying? She gave a tiny nod. If it's mutual, if we both trust each other, the connection must be real even if temporary. Aiden hesitated. He wasn't good at trust. He didn't even trust the government to mail his bills on time, let alone hand over part of his emotional self to a glowing alien woman with lethal pheromones. But somehow, this didn't feel like manipulation anymore. It felt like survival. For her, for him, maybe even for the planet. He knelt in front of her. What do I have to do? She reached out slowly, like she was afraid he'd flinch. Place your forehead against mine, close your eyes. Breathe with me. That's it? That's everything. Aiden leaned in. Their skin touched. His slightly cool, hers strangely warm, almost electric. A hum filled the space between them. Not a sound exactly, more like a vibration through his chest. He closed his eyes, and then he felt her, like a wave crashing into his mind, but soft and slow. Emotions washed over him. Sorrow, tension, a quiet hope buried deep beneath the exhaustion. He didn't hear her thoughts, but he felt her pain, her fear, her strength, and she felt him, his guardedness, his confusion, his need to protect something, anything, even if he didn't understand it yet. Tears welled up in his eyes before he even realized it, not from pain, from the weight of it all. When he opened his eyes, she was glowing brighter, steady now, not flickering. Her breathing had evened out, her shoulders relaxed. She was still Rinna, but calmer, whole. It worked, she whispered. I can feel you, but you're still you. That was intense, Aiden said, leaning back. I feel like I just lived someone else's life for a second. You lived mine, she said quietly. Before. They could say more. The apartment lights flickered, then went dark. Aiden tensed. Rinna's glow was the only source of light now, soft pink casting long shadows on the wall. A deep voice echoed from the hallway outside. Citizen Cross, open the door. Aiden stood up, adrenaline kicking in. That's not a good voice. Rinna nodded. Integration enforcers. They must have detected the bonding. They want confirmation. Confirmation for what? That I'm either stable or yours. What does that even mean? It means if they see you've accepted the bond willingly, they won't remove me. If they think you resisted or we failed. She paused, her eyes dimming slightly. They'll take me away. Aiden clenched his fists. They're not taking you. The door opened automatically and 2 compliance officers stepped inside, helmets hiding their faces. One held a scanner, the other reached for something on his belt. Cycle status confirmed, the one with the scanner said. Partial bond detected. Subject stable. The second officer stepped forward. You are aware of your treaty obligations, Citizen Cross? I am, Aiden said. His voice was steady now. And I accepted the bond. No coercion. No resistance. Then you are now considered fully integrated, the officer replied. Does that come with a tax break? Aiden asked dryly. The officer didn't smile. Expect random check-ins. We'll be ready, Rinna said from behind him. They left without another word. As soon as the door closed, Aiden exhaled hard. That was too close. You protected me, she said, rising to her feet. Her glow was softer now, more contained. But her eyes, they burned with something else, gratitude, connection. I'm not just doing this for you, he said. Something's not right with any of this. People are being manipulated, minds are being rewired. That's not peace, that's a slow invasion. And now you understand why the unbound exist, she replied. Aiden grabbed his jacket. Then, let's find them. Rinna tilted her head. Now. We just risked both our lives over trust and glowing pheromones, he said. We might as well put that to good use. Her mouth twitched into a smile. The resistance will like you. They won't like how sarcastic I get when I'm scared. Then they'll love you. They left the apartment together, blending into the neon-lit streets of Neo-Denver. Around them, humans and Valari walked side by side, some laughing, some silent, some already bonded without even realizing it. The city looked normal, but now Aiden knew what was hiding underneath, and he wasn't going to let it stay hidden.